Getting a raise just got a little bit tougher. Read this headline. Wage growth nears 3-year low in June as the labor market enters, quote, the different regime. Inflation and interest rates are forcing more companies to be stingier when it comes to pay raises because they're seeing a slowing economy, they're seeing the impacts of inflation, and they might not be getting the same amount of revenue as they were before. Annual wage increases for workers who stayed at the same job increased at the slowest rate in nearly 3 years. This June. And for job changers, your wage increases slid for a third straight month. The power dynamic between the employer and the employee have been shifting a lot since the pandemic, because when the pandemic first hit, nobody was working. But then when you had stimulus checks, you had unemployment checks, you had PPP loans, you had bailouts, you had grants, there was a lot of money. Everybody had money. People and businesses had a lot of money in their pocket. And then businesses needed a way to attract top talent because everybody was spending money. Every business was making money. And if businesses are making money, they want to grow. And if they want to grow, they want to produce more stuff, they need more employees. Now, when every business is making money, every business is fighting for employees. And so now you had some employees that wanted to work, some employees that didn't want to work and didn't need to because they were making money from unemployment checks and whatever. They just didn't feel like they needed to work. So you had a smaller pool of employees and you had a larger pool of employers. So you had a lot of people that wanted to hire you, but less people that wanted to work. So now what happens? If you have a lot of people that want to pay you for a job, they're going to offer you incentives, bonuses, higher wages, whatever you want. That way you come and work for them. So we saw this huge boom in employment. We saw the lowest unemployment rates really ever, and companies were willing to fight for employees. They were willing to pay higher wages. They were willing to offer you pretty much whatever you want, whatever benefits. They said work from home, do whatever you want to do, just come work for us, because employers and companies were desperate for employees. Then that also created that great resignation. Because now employees said, well, if you're not going to let me do things the way that I want, if you're not going to give me the raise that I want, I'm just going to go down the street and work for another company that's going to pay me more money, because employees were realizing that if they quit and went somewhere else, they could get a big pay raise. So this created that great resignation where employees were moving from one job to the other because every employer was desperate. And then we started to see a shift in the economy again, which was employers started to realize that they needed more productive workers. And some employees felt like they weren't happy where they were working. This created that next shift, which was that quiet quitting shift, which was, I'm not going to do more work than I absolutely have to. I'm just going to do enough based off of the job description. I'm just going to get by, which was fine. But now we're entering the next phase, which is a lot of employers are saying, yeah, that quiet quitting, it's not going to cut it. You're going to come into the office, or you're going to have to leave. And we're starting to see more of this shift where employers are saying, we need productive employees, we need smart employees, we need good employees, and we might not be able to pay you as much as you thought you were going to get paid. It's a very different dynamic, and part of this has to do with inflation, part of this has to do with higher interest rates, part of this has to do with the slowing economy. But now what we're seeing happen, essentially, is that more and more companies are saying, okay, we're realizing that this COVID economy is over. That free money age is over. This spending crazy age is over. The economy is much slower now. We're not making as much money. We're not seeing the same growth as we were before. And now we need to figure out, based off of this pool of employees that we have today, how we can be the most productive, how we can be the most efficient, and how we can make the biggest profits, because sales aren't booming the way that they were a couple of years ago when everybody had money in their pockets. So that's why we've seen layoffs happen in a lot of industries as companies overhired. And you're also seeing companies saying we need to be more productive and we need to be more efficient, which is why some companies are saying we have to go back into the office. That way we can see who really wants to work for us. And if you don't want to work for us, well, go find another company, which is a lot harder to do now than it was a couple of years ago. Now, we've been covering all of this in Market Briefs. Market Briefs is my free financial newsletter where we break down what's happening in the economy, housing, stocks, crypto, and the global economy. That way, if you're an investor and you want to stay up to date on what's happening, it's a free and easy to read newsletter that breaks it down for you. If you haven't read Market Briefs yet, I got the link for you to join down in the description below. But this is where now you got to understand this shifting dynamic, because the reality is the economy is slowing. We've been seeing this happen, and there's really no signs of kind of saying that it's going to stop slowing down anytime soon. I mean, sure, the Federal Reserve Bank could start cutting interest rates. The government could start spending more money to stimulate the economy. But based off of kind of what's happening in the economy right now, it looks like the economy is going to continue down this trajectory, which means that businesses might have to be more productive. They might have to be more efficient. And we're seeing a change when it comes to wage growth. We're seeing a change when it comes to promotions. We're seeing a change when it comes to raises, which has a lot of implications, but I want you to understand this from your own personal finance standpoint. Because the reality is inflation has not gone away. Inflation is still high. So if we still have this high inflation, wage growth is falling, that means the prices of things are going up. And this means you have to be financially smart. In fact, this means you have to be financially smarter than ever before. Because at the end of the day, you gotta stop spending all of your money if you want to build wealth. If you want to be financially free, the way you're gonna become financially free is not working a job your whole life. It's by not spending all of your money, taking some of the money that you don't spend and investing this money into assets, owning enough assets that are gonna pay you enough to cover your expenses. I mean, that's real wealth. But in order for that to happen, that means you gotta be financially smart. And you might say, well, Jaspreet, how do you expect me to do this in a time where I'm not getting the raises that I should? My groceries keep getting more expensive and my landlord keeps raising my rent and my housing costs keep going up. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, there's really no magic formula here. It's you make money, you can't spend all your money. You can either work to spend less or you can work to earn more. There's really no other magic formula to this. And it's only going to get more difficult. And I'm not saying this in a scary way. I'm saying this in the sense that, well, inflation is going to stay around. Inflation has been around since before the pandemic. Most people just didn't know that it existed. The Federal Reserve Bank wants 2% inflation because that's low enough inflation to not trigger any big concerns over inflation. But it still makes things more expensive. It's just not noticed by people day to day. When you have higher inflation, yes, it is more noticed, and that's what we're seeing today. So if you really want to build wealth, you got to get serious about that. It's only going to get more difficult because inflation is going to continue to happen. We're seeing a slowdown in the economy. You're seeing more and more companies fight for more productivity, for more efficiency. So that means you, number one, want to make yourself valuable at your company if your job and your career is important to you. Make sure you're coming to work and you're performing. That way you are more likely to get the raise, to get the promotion. Because if you can provide more money to your company, if you can make your boss more money, they're going to be more likely to pay you. Are there some companies that are crap? You got it. But there are also some great companies out there that are thriving still. So if you can show your boss, hey, I'm going to help you make more money, they'll be willing to help you make more money as well. And if they're not, go find a new company. So make yourself valuable there. But then the second thing now is as you make money, you got to be smart with what you're doing with the money. Now more than ever. Because we're seeing what's happening in the economy. I mean, take a look at what's happening in the job market. Take a look at what's happening in the economy. And that means now don't spend all of your money. Be smart with it. Take some of the money, save some of it. Take some of the money, pay down your debts if you have any. Take some of that money, put it into money that's going to be invested. You don't have to invest it today, but take that money and get this money ready to be invested and then invest in your financial education. Learn how to invest, learn how to analyze stocks, learn how to analyze rental properties, learn how to invest your money and then start doing it. And you don't have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose money. I say it all the time. Investing has risks. You are never guaranteed to make money when you invest. In fact, you will lose money at some point. And that's why you got to do your own due diligence and never blindly trust a random guy on YouTube. But this is where your education is so important because that's what's going to allow you to actually put things to work. Now, you can read every book, you can watch every YouTube video, you can take every class, you can buy every coaching program, but you cannot bypass the experience. You got to actually put in the work, you got to put in the reps, and you got to lose money sometimes to learn how investing actually works. But this is what's happening in the job market. If you want that freedom where you don't have to keep working a job and keep relying on a paycheck and keep relying on your job to survive, the way out is by owning investments that pay you. And when you own enough investments that will cover your expenses, if your investments are $4,000 a month, if you own rental properties, if you own dividend paying stocks, if you own things that are paying you $4,100 a month, well, now going to your job isn't as stressful because even if you don't go to work, the money is still coming in and it's still paying your bills. But here's the hard part, getting the money to buy those assets that are going to pay you the $4,100 a month, because most people assume that it's got to happen overnight. This is a process. I call it a decade of sacrifice. Are we working to spend less and earn more so you can invest your money? And if you're willing to stick with it, where you're spending less and earning more so you can invest your money, in 10 years, you're going to be in a completely different financial situation. Maybe you don't get $4,000 a month, but are you going to be upset if you're making $2,000 a month? $1,000 a month? $3,342 a month? But it starts with you getting started. And you're going to say, well, what do I buy? There are so many options out there. You just got to get started. You can look at dividend-paying stocks. You can look at dividend-paying ETFs. You can look at rental properties. You can look at other types of stocks. I mean, there's really no limit. The question is what it is that you want to invest in. Maybe you don't even want cash flow. I like cash flow investing, which is why I talk about it so much. But the reality here is the job market is changing. It's going to keep changing. We're seeing it changing in the economy. Inflation is still around. Interest rates are still high. This is where now you can complain or you can do something about it. And if you want to do something about it, that means you got to get serious about your money. You got to take a look at where your money is going. You got to stop spending all of your money. You got to work to earn some more money, which means, yeah, you got to make yourself valuable. Make your boss more money. That way you can make more money. And then take the money that you're making and instead of buying a new car, you invest it into some assets, which hopefully will start paying you. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to go through down economic cycles. You're going to see a market crash and you're going to want to pull your hair out and you're going to say, I hate investing. But if you stick with it and you keep finding the new opportunities, eventually you're going to start to make some more money and you will see the value of long-term investing and building wealth because you started to build your financial education and you weren't chasing the next hot stock. According to some, this is the strongest economy of all time.
I know what it took to take our economy from the depths of the pandemic to where it is today, the strongest economy in the world.
But not everybody agrees.
When inflation's killing our country, it is absolutely killing us.
I want to give a real update as to what's happening with our economy right now.